Welkom terug. Die wêreld is vandag 'n totale ander plek as 'n jaar gelede. Wat het 2020 vir ons oor die mensdom geleer en wat lê voor? Ek het voor die uitsending met Dion Chang, die bekende tendens-ontleder en eienaar van Flux Trends, gesels. Dion, I think there's no doubt that 2020 was challenging for businesses and consumers out there. What are some of your own personal learnings of this crazy year?
It was an exceptional year last year, and I think 2021, I'm afraid to say, is going to be a bit more of a Groundhog Day for a lot of people and a lot of businesses. But the biggest learning, I think, that I've realized is that a two-dimensional screen life is not what humans were designed for. I wrote a column during the lockdown that said just because technologically we are able to do something doesn't mean that it's actually preferable. I just think as social beings, we can continue our lives virtually, but it's just not ideal.
So where do you think businesses are shifting at the moment?
Okay, so I think it's global and as well as South African. The big word that came out last year was empathy. So empathy, and everybody said about humanizing businesses. So you are looking, especially in terms of your staff, it's not just the individual, it's their environment, it's the family. You're looking at their situation, the socioeconomic situation they've got, what kind of communities they live in. So we've gone a lot more empathetic. And for the really, really big companies, it's not just about the bottom line and it's not just about shareholder primacy. You've got to kind of look at a business a lot more holistically and be a little bit more caring.
In terms of behavioral change in consumers, are you seeing something happening at the moment? What's the main trends?
We've had 10 months of lockdown and sitting in front of your screen. We're not going to remember much because your brain only really creates memories out of new experiences. So if you've been sitting in front of your screen for 10 months, looking at the same desk, sitting in the same chair, 2020 is going to be like a blur. But having said that, if we've gotten used to, people that haven't been online shopping have started to do that, there's a big shift in terms of what you did 10 months ago is probably going to be embedded in your mindset, and your behavioral patterns will definitely change. I think everybody had to a certain extent, a little existential crisis sitting at home for 10 months. So you've started to see it. That's called semigration. People are looking for bigger properties. They're moving to second-tier cities, which is sort of just slightly cheaper, more space, because now we've divorced the concept that work is a place you go to. Work is what you do, so that's changed everything.
A lot of business entrepreneurs know about millennials as the new consumer, but there's a new consumer called Gen Z. Why should we care about them, and who exactly are they?
So you've hit my passion spot there. So your Gen Zs or your Gen Zs, I started tracking them 5 years ago. They are the first digital natives of humanity. They are basically your teenagers. So from about sort of 12, 13, the oldest ones are already 24, 25. So they are coming not only into your workplace, but they're coming into your workforce. They are important because, the fact that they're digital natives, the way in which they've learned and they assimilate information is totally different to even millennials. Millennials, if you think about it, still had to adapt to social media, different platforms. These guys know no other world besides Google, internet, smartphones, and that has rewired their brains and in terms of information. So they don't wait for you to ask a question. If they have a curious mindset, they will just Google it. So I always say to parents and to teachers, I'm sorry for you, but you are no longer the font of wisdom. Google is, and you don't do that. But what you're starting to see is, this generation has a very, very high social justice barometer. You look at your Greta Thunberg, you look at any of the teenagers. A lot of them, especially on the YouTube environment, they've started businesses at 16, at 17. By the time they finish high school, they've probably, burnt their fingers on one little startup or whatever. So the concept of formal tertiary education, all of those kind of things, is going to be very, very different. So if you thought millennials were a handful, then there's another story coming to you. And brands and businesses really better be careful, because they will ask questions. They will ask the uncomfortable questions. That social justice barometer will make sure that the brand ethics, values, all of those kind of things are in place before they actually buy your product. That's why they're important.
Dion, I've got business myself, and I woke up in 2021 quite positive. Now, my question is, do you think I'm one in a million?
I'm also the eternal optimist, but I must say my rose-tinted glasses are getting a little bit foggy at the moment, just as, how we've seen it happening. But I think if you've survived till now, and you survived the last 10 months, then, keep doing what you're doing, or just keep pivoting to try something new, because now we're in this rapid period of acceleration. And what I want to say to businesses is just remember, you've got to be proactive about this. The biggest innovations don't happen when everything's calm, we're all happy, and the status quo is all balanced. It's when we're freaking out, when the proverbial is hitting the fan and there's panic all over the place. That is when really amazing innovation starts happening. We mustn't long to go back to where we were in 2019, because actually if you go back in our research, 2019 was not a pretty place to be in. The way it ended was not great. So you've got to embrace the new and make peace that everything has changed, and that you've got to start embarking on this new journey.
Wat wil jy werklik bereik in die jaar wat voorlê? Soms is 2 tot 3 groot doelwitte baie meer bereikbaar as 'n klomp kleiner doelwitte. Ons neem 'n kort advertensiebreek en gesels daarna verder. Bly gerus ingeskakel.